as the year goes on, I get closer and closer.
So to learn new skills and to build new acumen.
We can always touch. It's not.
When you get that, then you get a lot more excited about being around children.
Normal, in a sense, with all of the changes, of course.
Or how you can transform your own business.
On developing the whole child, socially, emotionally.
Traditional route of teaching young people
how to set boundaries, because this little victim here needs to know how to.
Doing very well, so they use that term.
Sometimes expanded them to go up to 40 minutes.
All of those things in education, of course, those things are important.
Oxygen is going to our heads and our lungs.
The affirmations in the mirror for about 2 minutes.
What did you do in order to get yourself going?
This is amazing.
It happens, what seems to happen quite a bit in our school.
For the families to come, and they
is that really for the child, or is it for us, for the parent?
And doing new things for our brain.
Who's orchestrating everything in this universe?
Which parts of the brain are used?
Based on that map that we have.
See you with your smiling face.
Atul, thank you very much for allowing me to join you. Namaste to you, my friends.
Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone who has joined us from different parts of the world to our Early Childhood Global Spotlight Talk Show. My name is Atul. I'm a proud member and co-founder to this community, also the founder of preschool chain in the name of WOWkids in India. We have close to 200 centers spread across 20 states of our country. For those who are new to the show, the purpose and intent of this show is to understand and explore the most important time in the child's early years of growth, especially from birth to 6 years of age. We invite experts on different subjects from across the globe related to early childhood and have them share their experience and knowledge with our community. So if you have any question during the show, feel free to leave a comment. We would be happy to take that up during our show. Okay, so let's get started. Today we have a very special guest, Ayelet Marinovich, and we are also joined by our co-host Marian Herman. Both are from the United States. Hi, Ayelet.
Hi, nice to see you, Atul.
Yes, hi, how are you? And it's a pleasure to introduce our guest for today, Ayelet Marinovich. She is a Master in Arts, CCC, SLP, is a pediatric speech language pathologist, parent educator, singer, and imperfect mother based in the San Francisco Bay Area. She is the founder and host of the very famous Learn with Less curriculum, where she provides families with the confidence to raise a great human from day one without having to buy a single toy. She is the creator of the Learn with Less infant and toddler curriculum, the basis for which is outlined in her best-selling books, Understanding Your Baby and Understanding Your Toddler. She has served thousands of families through online and in-person programs using the Learn with Less curriculum and has trained a number of licensed facilitators to serve countless more families all over the world. Her current passion includes spending time with her family, dismantling the baby industry, and creating communities of support for families of young children with infants and toddlers of all development levels. Hi, Ayelet. It's a privilege and honor to have you today on our Spotlight Talk Show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so wonderful to be here.
Well, look at that, Rebecca Weiner.
Hi, Rebecca.
Yes, hi, Rebecca. Okay, allow me to introduce my co-host, our very own Marian Herman. It's a delight to co-host this show with Marian, who is also the founder of internationally respected Music with Mar from Florida, United States. She is also the moderator and backbone to this global community. She has recently had the privilege of being a TEDx speaker. She has spoken on the topic building brains with music. It's a wonderful talk, and I request each one of you who is a part of this early childhood community to take advantage and listen to this informative talk by Marian. Feel free to comment or leave your thoughts below the talk in YouTube. Share it with friends and family. We shall share the link of her talk while during the show. Okay, over to Marian to take this forward.
Thank you so much, Atul. I appreciate the support. That is such an important topic. Excuse me, you know, Mr. Froggy, I've got a frog in my throat. Excuse me.
So that's the link for YouTube. If you can copy it, I'm not sure people can copy this wonderful talk. Yeah, please have a look at this YouTube video on TEDx where Marian has spoken about her experience about, music with infant and toddlers.
Thank you. And it is only 15 minutes long. I had my own sister. I said, Annette, have you watched it yet? And she goes, well, how long is it? I don't have an hour. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's just 15 minutes. Thank you, but it's just 15 minutes of really good information that you are going to hear Ayelet back up with her information, which is so exciting. And I want to thank Rebecca because Rebecca posted a video of Ayelet, and that is why we went ahead and contacted her. It might have also been Risa that also recommended her. And I see that we have Liz from from San Francisco. So she's probably going to reach out because you guys are neighbors. Anyway, enough of all of that. Let's have you just jump in and tell us a little bit about Learn with Less and how it came into being.
Oh, sure. Well, when I was pregnant for the first time and expecting my first child, my husband and I had moved to the UK. We were living in London. There we go. So, and we were, I had the privilege of trying to wait for my speech pathology license to come into effect, and so had all this time to figure out, all the opportunities and offerings that existed in the UK for pregnant, birthing, and new people and new families. So I was looking, for communities of support, looking for ways to just utilize my skills as a speech language pathologist and wanting to pair that with my love for early childhood and play and music and things like that. So when my first child was born, I started inviting other caregiver and baby pairs over to my home, and we shared our challenges, our new parent challenges, and what was going on with our bodies and our brains and all of the transition into new familyhood, right? And being in London, it was great because we were all from very different places. It's a very metropolitan place with people from all over the world, and we just sort of started to gather and share those things that all brought us together, and all of those common questions of new parenthood, like, am I doing the right thing for my baby? Am I doing enough? What should I be doing? What do I need to buy? All of those questions. And so I really enjoyed having this opportunity to share the things that I didn't question, right? There were plenty of things that I felt very vulnerable about, was struggling with all of that new postpartum anxiety and issues coming up for many new families. But one of the things that I did not struggle with was how do I support my child? What are those things that make a difference? And so that was what we really focused on in these groups that I started leading. So I over time, we developed a curriculum, and I developed, based on the questions that we were all asking and the kinds of things that people really wanted to know about, all of the ways that we could utilize the things that we already had in our environment the time we were already spending in terms of, caregiving routines and, just those everyday little moments and little objects throughout our homes that our children can safely play with and manipulate and explore. And really, started sharing that information. And then as we left the UK and we moved again, I started a podcast in early 2016, and that became the basis for the sort of online presence that we have now with Learn with Less. And it just grew from there. So really, it grew out of a need for community and a desire for families to understand and feel more confident and build capacity, right? Because that's really what we're looking at when we think about supporting new families, right? New parents and caregivers are already exhausted. They're already overwhelmed. They're already feeling this lack of confidence. And when we can remind them that actually you don't need to buy the things that you're being served, Facebook and Instagram and whatever else ads for, you literally have everything you need. And it's just a matter of figuring out what those things are and seeing the value of the everyday, right? The magic in the mundane and everyday objects that are already around us. So that's the story.
And a beautiful one at that. That is exactly how my Music with Mayor program started, with me working with the moms in my group that we hung out with and getting together.
Yeah.
So it's a really good building point for a lot of good ideas, and especially for new parents. So let's take a moment to read what Rebecca has commented. Capacity is everything. Learning to trust themselves and see the opportunity around them is the best way to empower parents as their children's first teachers.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that, Rebecca. Yeah, that's everything, right? And again, I want to just emphasize, like, it's not just moms and it's not just dads. It's also all caregivers, grandparents, nannies and babysitters and foster families and non-binary folks and all of the people who care for young children, right?
Yes.
All of us need support.
Yes, we do. And not with just the children, but that's another show. But so you picked the title, Learn with Less.
Yes.
And on your website, or your bio says, without ever buying a single toy. So let's elaborate on why that's important to you. And also, how strict are you on that? Do you ever think a toy is okay?
Right. This has nothing to do with being anti-toy. This is about utilizing the things that are in our environment. And I think the key is not having to buy a single toy, right? We have everyday objects and everyday routines, like I mentioned, that are all over our home that we use, and that children see as items and opportunities to explore. And I think that the toy industry specifically is very much preying on the idea that people want to buy the right thing, quote unquote, right? That there exists a binary between right and wrong, and only this and only that, and that that there's some ultimate perfection place that we should be going forward towards, right? And we all know that, I like to say that the emperor has no toys, right? Like, the truth is that beautiful box of, like, wooden, organically stained wooden box of tissues that come, packaged in that lovely toy subscription box that you're paying at upwards of $40 or $50 or $80 a month for, is literally in your home. It is a tissue box with masks or actual tissues or bandanas or whatever you want to put inside it.
Right.
It's just being packaged to you as a toy, and toys are just objects that are safe, objects that are all around us, right? We want to think about, what is a child working on? What kinds of parts of development are there, and how can we best support those things? And often we're talking about fine motor skills, gross motor skills, vocabulary, interaction, social interaction with peers, social interaction with adults, cognitive, concepts, basic concepts like in and out, and putting, prepositional concepts, spatial concepts. Those are the things that we are working on with our children that develop our children, right? That like cognitive development, communicative development, motor and sensory development, and social and emotional development are those 4 major areas of early learning. And how can we support those things? Through play, through music or rhythms, through communication and language in the environment, and through movement. That's it. So whether you do those with traditional toys that you purchase or are given to you, or whether you do those with, I have just a few objects of photos that I've got here, like with a few like zippered bags, or for instance, some stencils, or a variety of circular objects, right? I mean, a laundry basket. There's no end to the kinds of everyday items that we can use. So no, I'm not strict about any of this. It's a matter of what do you have in your home that you can use. If your child is gravitating toward a traditional educational toy or an object that they can be safe exploring, there's the point is there's no difference, really, right?
Right. And I don't know if I had shared this story on a previous spotlight, but my daughter's now 33. And last week she brought up a memory of when we were at Disney World. And we had gone, friends had rented one of the villas, and we went over to visit. And we could have left to go back out in the park, but the kids had found a large cardboard box. And they were 7 or 8. And they went to the top of the stairs and sat on the box and slid down the stairs. Then they started saying, we've tried to slide at the same time. What's the difference between if we didn't use the box? Nope, we need the box. And Joya said, I was just thinking the other day, like all the toys you could buy your children are things we could have been playing with. And we wanted that box.
Yep.
And parents have to take the time to remember that children will find their toys.
Yeah.
If we don't provide them, they'll find them.
Absolutely.
Even if we do provide them, they'll find them.
Right, true. They might ignore to play with.
This is why your child gravitates toward the crinkly plastic water bottle instead of, or the remote control versus the fancy toy that lights up.
Exactly. And
actually,
go ahead.
The whole conversation reminds me of when we became parents to our twins, a baby boy and a baby girl, almost 10 years back. Now, we got our babies late after 10 years of our marriage. We got a lot of toys for them, just because Preeti was managing them all by herself and I was traveling most of the time. And we even bought expensive toys to just stimulate them and make them very happy. But we realized most of the toys they used to play for 2 minutes or maximum 5 minutes and then throw it from the balcony down. That's the way they used to. And finally, after again and again buying more and more toys, we realized that it was not the toys. The favorite thing for our babies were us. It was the parents. And how we could engage with them in a meaningful way was more important to them. So that's very, very important for parents to realize that the baby's favorite thing is you. It's not a toy. It doesn't actually how you make meaningful interactions with your baby is what will make a huge difference. And you don't need a toy. As you have shown, everything is available in the house. Everything is available. You can give all kind of stimulation. You can influence all their senses. You can give them all kind of development, social, cognitive, auditory development, all through the objects and things available in the house. It's only thing, unfortunately, the only problem here, where mostly I have seen that there's an awareness issue with parents.
Yeah.
And new parents are not even aware what to do, how to do, and when to do with their babies. And with the new digital age, we've seen that parents themselves are involved so much in their own world with the gadgets that babies are getting ignored, which is leading to the delay in the development of a lot of things which could have happened at the right time. And there is the need of learn with less program.
And Preeti,
That's how
and
they
read what
really do happen.
Yeah.
Preeti just wrote.
Yeah,
What
I
is-
love
what is-
I love Preeti's comment here about how no wonder how many expensive toys you get, nothing beats a spoon and the sound of it on anything and everything. Exactly. I mean, think about how much a child is learning when they're experimenting with that comparing and contrasting piece. I mean, that's literally like the banging of it, the motoric movement is that fine motor or gross motor skills, depending on how big of a movement it is, right? The grip of it, the sound, listening to it. Maybe there's some joint attention happening with the child and the caregiver as they're looking up to make sure that the caregiver saw or heard the difference, right? If the caregiver is feeding the language, like, oh wow, so loud, or oh, that one was soft, or big sound, right? I mean, there's just so much. STEAM in its simplest form. Yeah, there's so many great comments here. And from Rebecca, we can trust children to choose their toys and guide their play. I think there's so many pieces at play here and so many directions we could go in at this point as far as, I mean, but I think one of the things that I really want to drive home for educators and therapists and families is really that piece of, it's not our job to direct the play. It's not our job to show our children what they should be doing. They are guiding us. And the more we can follow literally what they are doing, what they're interested in, how they want to move their bodies, what they are looking at, what they are noticing, give words for that, put it in a rhythm, create movement opportunities and interaction opportunities. That's it. That's literally all there is. And really keeping it simple for families and helping them understand that this is not about supporting your child's development, giving your child everything they need to live their best life, is not about creating all these elaborate activities and buying things and objects and toys. It's about utilizing the everyday moments and literally the time and energy that you are already spending with your child during a diaper changing routine, during a going to bed routine, during when you go outside and get the mail, like those little tiny everyday moments that happen again and again, right? Because we know that repetitive nature is actually hugely beneficial. So when you can create even and uphold a routine that is marked by a specific phrase that you say every time you open the door to let in the sun, or every time you smell their diaper, and maybe you're adding some language or a funny song that you sing that can be literally as simple as, stinky, 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 stinky. I mean, this is not about being being musical or being playful. Like, it's literally just adding the words to what you're already doing, essentially, right?
Yes. In fact, I think it is all about creating those interactions, the everyday moments, meaningful interactions.
Yeah. Right.
Actually, but then that requires parents to learn those things. It will not happen on their own. I personally feel there's a huge gap. A lot of parents feel that the education and learning happens only when the baby goes to the kindergarten. A lot of parents, I feel, we interact because we are running so many preschools here in India. A lot of parents don't even know that they need to do these meaningful interactions. They don't even know that there is something beyond a doctor, a pediatrician, who can really help them have these meaningful interactions with their baby, or they can learn these things to do with their babies. a lot of, because, and also because earlier in the olden times there used to be joint families, there used to be more interaction with the grandfathers, grandparents, and they used to teach a lot of things, because we had more and more time with us. There were no gadgets, there was no internet, so we used to spend that
Right.
time with our babies. Now with a lot of internet and a lot of time directed towards internet, I think the overall awareness and even the time that a parent spends with the babies is has reduced drastically, I think. So it is very, very important for parents to learn these skills. It is very, very
Yeah.
important. They will make a huge difference on their baby when they grow up to say 3 to 4 years, even lifelong, because these first 3 years is the years for their brain development to happen. That's
Absolutely.
a time, if you can really influence and do something in these 3 years, it's going to have a very long lasting impact on the baby's future life.
Yeah. I
personally
mean, I think there's so much to be said for the fact that, like, yes, and I think it's so important for families. Like, I want to give all of the empathy in the world to families who've been through what we've been through over the last few years, right? Where literally, like, many parents and caregivers are just trying to get through the day and survive, and oftentimes get their work done on their tablets or their phones or their computers. And, like, what else are you going to do? And I think the key here, again, just to drive it home totally, is that this is not about adding anything more. It's about making use of what you are already doing and seeing the value, like you said, Atul, of those everyday moments, and seeing that they are indeed and in fact the key to supporting your child. So yes, exactly. Like, there's an awareness that we need to help families, see that, like, it is you, and it's not you plus all this money that you have to spend. It's literally you. It's your face, it's your hands, it's your voice. That's it.
Yeah.
And then the things that happen to be sitting here with you, right? That's it.
Absolutely.
Which leads into our next question here, which you're making a good point. I know I have a song where I talk from the baby's perspective about being in the stroller. There's, I learned so much in my stroller. I like what I see. And it just talks about mommy tells me all the things as we're in the stroller. She points and says, look at this. That's a bird. That's a tree. And some people think it's a waste of time. It makes me really sad, I yell it, when I see a mom like on with a stroller and she's got earbuds in and she's not even taking the time. Like, such, to me, I want to go over and say, these are wasted moments.
Absolutely.
And
and they don't realize that this time is never going to come again in the life. Children are growing faster.
I want to say, though, I'm sorry, but I do want to say that yes, that is an important moment. And also, again, like, we have got to give families grace.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, there is no way
Absolutely.
for me that I have ever taken advantage of every single moment, right? And I just want to say that out loud, because, like, if you, Marianne, if you came up to me and I was like taking that 1 5-minute break that I needed for my own personal sanity and self-care and told me that I was, like, wasting a moment, I would lose.
I would never do that.
But I'm just saying, like, I think there is space for all of it here. So I just I can't let that moment go.
I would never do that. I would never do that. I'm just saying that.
In order to
say that.
I personally believe it, in order to actually give the babies the meaningful interaction and that good time and a healthy interaction, both the baby and the mom, they have to be well fed, slept well, that they both need to be in a very healthy and happy state of mind. It's only then they're going to make the difference in the baby's life. If the mother is, or the parent or a caregiver is also happy, well fed, slept well, and in a happy state of mind, so that's very important. But what Marian was not just talking about a 5 minute break, but then usually it is seen that today's world, it is beyond 5 minutes. It is almost the entire day. I see a lot of parents who are either working from home. It is not, I know that there is no choice. A lot of families have to work. A lot of husband and wives, both have to work to run their family, but then not at the cost of not interacting with the baby, or
Right.
bringing it that down drastically, and not even trying to inquire that the baby needs stimulation, baby needs their time, baby needs their voice to interact with. So I think very incredible. That's really a good point, Marian, that you really brought out today, that yes, it is a time which is never going to come. I've seen my babies growing in front of my eyes, and now at the age of 10, I feel that they are independent, they don't even need us. So time is flying, things are
Absolutely.
changing so fast. We don't even know what's going to be the future after 10, 20 years, how is technology going to change our lives. This is the only time, first 5 years, 6 years is the only time the child is going to spend with you the way you want to be. After
Mhm.
that, it's going to be only them on their own. And so it's very important to have that connection, that bonding built at this age. And it has to be
Sure.
starting at birth. And that's where the first 2 or 3 years play a very important role, building that bond between the family or the caregiver and the baby. It's very important. And if you miss that time, then there's not going to be a second chance. I'm very sure about it.
For sure.
Yeah, and I really want to hammer home that I would never go up to a mother and say that. I was using that as hyperbole to make a point. I
Right.
would not do that. I wanted, I mean, you see the moms that have the strollers so that they can jog. And, that's like, I need to work out. When am I going to get a workout? So how ingenious to say I can jog while I'm pushing a stroller. Baby's getting to be outside. I'm getting in my workout. I applaud all that stuff. I was just trying to make a point that some parents don't realize that there is value
Mhm.
in talking to your child when you are pushing a stroller.
For sure.
Not
Yes.
that you have to do it all the time, but there is value in it. And a lot of parents, I know I was always told, when my daughter was little, why are you doing that? She's only 6 months old. She doesn't know what you're saying, and I'm like, but she
That's how
will.
they learn. Yeah. Right.
Exactly. And she will.
I
early.
want to just make sure that I'm not trying to attack you. It was
I
just
don't feel
certainly
attacked.
like there's nuance and it's both and, right? Like,
I don't feel
No, but
attacked.
then you had a point, Ayelet. That's also very important. As I said, that both the mental health, happiness,
yeah.
and the, I say, mental condition, physical condition, and state of mind of both the caregiver and the baby, both needs to
Yeah.
be taken care. It's not that if you are unhappy, I'm sure you will not be able to make any difference in the life of the baby.
Exactly.
That's very
Exactly.
good. You have to take care of yourself, not at the cost, I personally feel, not at the cost of baby not getting the right amount of stimulation or attention, not at the cost.
Right.
You need to
Exactly.
spend
Balance is a very, very important word. And
I have,
I
Marian,
do,
I have seen baby lying on the bed for hours trying to make that, those coos, those gas, and making that sound, and putting their hands and
Yeah.
feet, a 6 month old, and the parents were working without bothering what the child was, right. They were thinking that the child is just passing his own time, the baby is passing his own time the way it is. Actually, the baby was trying to speak to them because he could hear their parents, and the parents didn't bother because they were busy in their work and talking and then using Facebook. I have seen that happening. And I know a lot of people who do that because, we were there. There was a party going on. We were there at their place, and the baby was lying on the bed, and there was nobody interacting with the baby. They felt that the baby is enjoying the time on his own, but actually, that baby wanted their time. They wanted their stimulation. It was that coos and gas were not for himself. He was trying to
Right.
speak. He was trying that he wanted that interaction with the parent or anybody else in the room.
well, like that's a lot of good points on all ends, you know, and that is very true. And there was an interesting video, Ayelet, I'm sure you saw, where they did the research where the mom was paying attention to the baby and then the baby calmed down. But when the mom ignored the baby was like furiously trying to get their attention. So, you know, with what Atul's saying there, that just is part of that. And then again, there is also the thing that baby does need to learn that they're not always going to get attention, and, you know, that they have to self-soothe as well. And that's a whole nother topic. Right. So what I wanted to get to was to let you talk a little bit more about that. You have a big focus on speech, you know, that was part of your background, and you also are a singer. And you use speech and song, and you start with them very, very young. So let's talk about that, because I think that's part of what we were touching on here is like, what do you do with speech and song? How do you tie them together from when they're younger? And if a parent's listening now and they have a 2-year-old and they're saying, oh, I haven't done that, put their minds at ease. And tell them what they could be doing now.
Sure. So those are just 2 of the 4 pillars that we really look at within Learn with Less. So our 4-pillar framework is play, talk, sing, and move. Those are all 4 of the areas that we really work within all of the resources that we provide within our like caregiver and child classes. There's time for all of those things within the books. Understanding your baby and understanding your toddler. You know, we break down like what a child might be working on at any given time, and then how you can support their development using those 4 pillars. So when we're talking about play, for instance, I'm not talking about like, I know that not everybody likes to get down on the floor and do the dramatic play or imaginative play or interactive play, right? Like that's not for everybody. I'm just talking about like open-ended play, exploring, giving opportunities for experimentation and a variety of environments, right? With no specific end goal in mind. That's what play is, right? Not like I'm doing this, you're doing that, right? I mean, we know that a toddler playing a board game, not going to happen in the way that one would expect, right? It's just, it's going to look different. So the caregiver being flexible and accepting what's happening in the environment. And then of course, ensuring safety with a variety of materials. Like that's play. That's what our pillar of play is really referring to. And then in terms of talk and in terms of that language rich environment, we're talking about, just offering opportunities to discuss and observe, right? Like you were saying with the example of why the walk down the street in a stroller is a great opportunity, because it is a great opportunity to discuss what you see, observe the building or the spider web or the crack in the sidewalk or whatever it is. And then again, talking about those caregiving routines with repetition, and then having those repetitive kinds of things that we talk about, but then adding in some variation, right? So that like there's a little bit of surprise and like, oh, that didn't happen last time, right? Because we know that even very, very, very young children are paying attention to those patterns. That's how they are learning, right? And then remembering that for caregivers with either teeny tiny infants or big old burly toddlers, we can communicate for a variety of purposes, right? And also using a variety of means or modes. We don't all just communicate through speech or language. We communicate or verbal utterances. We also communicate with gestures and facial expressions and how close we are to another person and how loud we are. All of those things and are at play here. And then thinking about wondering aloud, right? Asking those rhetorical questions and not just expecting our children to imitate us, but imitating them. That is a big part of early language, right?
That's a
In
great
our little
point.
ones.
Great point.
And really then just modeling that which you want to see your child do, right? And having them remembering that anything you model, they're going to emulate, right? Because we know that in general, young children learn through this process of observation, right? Observing others, interaction with the environment and with others, and imitation of things that they see and other people. And so when we provide any kind of interaction, we know that for better and for worse, we're going to see our children parrot that back, right? So being very attentive, at least as much as we can, to what we model for our children and how, right? And then in terms of that pillar of sing or music, I know that not every family or every caregiver considers themselves musical, and that is A-okay. I do not think that it's essential for every parent or caregiver to be singing throughout the day all the time. But I'm just talking about, adding a silly element, adding joy into routines, and using music in the environment or that's coming from you to distract or engage, right? It can be used to heighten and lower the sensory environment. And really just remembering that rhythms are everywhere, and we don't need an organically stained, beautiful wooden drum when we have a laundry basket or a cardboard box, for instance, right? And then again, making music with what you already have. And then finally, movement. That pillar of move is all about, like, movement literally is learning. That's how we move, is how we live. That's life. And then remembering as families to consider various planes, even when tiny humans are just teeny tiny, remembering that, like, forward and backward and side to side and up and down and on a diagonal, like, literally just walking around with your tiny baby up and down the hallway, looking at pictures on the wall or whatever it is, like, that is incredibly stimulating. Talking about what you see, like all of that movement, even just that position that a baby is in, and moving this from this to upside down to all of the ways that we can give our even littlest people who are not able to move so much on their own different ways to exist and move. And then again, remembering that exploration cannot be contained, and that containers for babies are not how they learn to move. It's about letting them move within a safe environment to explore where their body ends and begins, and where the world exists, right? And that's it. And I want to say what Rebecca said here in terms of, she said she has the ease, the explore, environment, and empowerment. That's really nice too. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Rebecca always has very good input. And here she's saying something else.
Well, yeah.
She's calling you brilliant. We need to keep that one up. Okay. So I understand that you have your program online, and people can get involved with it. So before we leave, let's talk about that. Let's let people know how they can contact you.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, so what Learn with Less is essential in its essential purest form is an opportunity for families to get together in community, to support each other, to get support, to support their tiny humans, and learn a little bit about how they can support their children. And so what we do is we do hold caregiver and child classes throughout the world, both virtually and in person. And we do have a licensing and certification program for educators and therapists who would like to be able to lead Learn with Less development and family enrichment classes. So that's all online, and we support you to, create a high quality, lasting impact on your community, to have this great high quality evidence-based program that you can bring to your community. So if you're a parent or caregiver, you can go to learnwithless.com/classes and find a licensed facilitator. Whether or not they're near you, they may be holding virtual classes as well. I've been doing that since 2017. We all know that there has always been a need for virtual classes, regardless of a pandemic.
Right.
But,
Very
that is a really nice way to help provide access for families who may not have like a licensed facilitator in their community. But also, if you are an educator or therapist looking into this opportunity and using your existing skills to create a deep, lasting impact on families that could be provided. And we have a lot of facilitators who are working, partnering with local organizations and really, offering these classes to all families within their community. You can find out more at learnwithless.com/certification.
Ayelet, is this a class they take for the parents, or is there an interactive with the child?
Yeah, so all of the classes themselves are caregiver and child. So we have a infant curriculum and a toddler curriculum, but all of the classes are for the caregiver and the baby dyad. So there's that can be 1 or 2 or 3 caregivers per child that attend a class, but it's generally the caregiver and the child. We also accept just the caregiver. For instance, we've had families who are adoptive families who have not, who are still waiting for their child to arrive, right? Especially within the pandemic, there's been some issues with especially international adoption, for instance, or we have, sometimes, especially with virtual classes, it can be nice for a caregiver to attend, even if the child is, taking a nap, for instance. And there's always ways that we get to help that caregiver interact and participate, regardless of whether the child is present or not.
And you've written some songs for this program.
Yeah, I mean, we have our hello song and our goodbye song, but in general, all of the music that we use is not really about knowing anything in particular. It's about filling in the words and singing about what we see, what the child is doing, what the child is noticing, the object in the environment, right? So oftentimes it doesn't even matter what the song is that's being used. It's you can take whatever whether it's Mary Had a Little Lamb, ABC, a song in any other language, and fill it in with the words that you see happening in your environment. That's the key.
That's always good to do.
Yeah.
And easy, and it doesn't cost parents any money to do after the class is over.
That's right.
That's
wonderful. And all of everything that's used within the class is objects from your everyday life
that's wonderful. I love it. I think that's fantastic. And I'm so glad that we connected. And Atul, I'm sure you may have some closing comments here.
Absolutely.
Questions?
I think it was great having Ayelet on our show. The kind of work that you have been doing. There are a lot of people I have seen who work on children above 3 years of age, and very few people I found globally who worked for infant and toddlers. Marian, you and Ayelet both, I have a very high regard, and there's a huge scope for a lot of new parents to learn about these programs that are running globally, which are very, very, very important for their babies, good development, I will say. Everybody must join these programs when the baby is born, right from birth. There is no age. It should not be that child will only start learning at the age of 3 when they go to a preschool. The learning will start at home after the baby is born. In fact,
well, and like you've
the
been
baby
saying,
has been learning. The The
Go
baby
ahead.
has been learning even before they were born. For 9 months they were inside their mother,
Yeah.
and they were hearing, listening to everything that was happening. So that's the reason when they are born, the mother's voice is something that they recognize right from birth. So that's where the learning starts. It is never that you have to wait for 3 years, or the child will become 4 years, only then the child will learn. So I think a
Oh,
Yeah, he's
and
just
friends, we
froze
had an
for me.
amazing
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
amazing to hear you, and we would love to have you on the show again. We will
Thank
talk about
you.
more. As I talked, we may have Dr. Sally and Ayelet join the show someday.
That would be
And my sincere
wonderful.
thanks to you, Ayelet, once again, and Marian also to join us today. I also thank all the viewers on Facebook for taking your precious time to watch the show live. Our best wishes until we meet again next week. All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.